Uh, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and I do have a brief presentation, and then I'll be very happy to answer questions at the end. And this all assumes that I will not screw up sharing my screen. So just a moment. Okay, can you all see a PowerPoint?
Yes, I can see the PowerPoint, yes.
Okay, great. I am going to try to put this into slideshow mode here and go from there. Just a sec. All right, can you all still see that?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, what I'd like to do is to start out with kind of an overview of who the housing department is and who is the housing authority and what we do, and sort of our impact in the community, including our work in development. So I'll go ahead and just get started here. The housing authority itself is a corporate body that's created under state law. And it has powers and abilities that are separate and distinct from those of the Board of Supervisors. So just for example, the Housing Authority can own and operate housing. The board cannot operate residential housing. The Housing Authority can incur debt without going to the voters. The Housing Authority can also make loans to individuals and organizations, and it's with those powers that we are the county's local housing finance agency. The Department of Housing and Community Development was founded in 1974 to serve as the administrative staff to the Housing Authority. I will go ahead and go straight to talking about some of our goals in the community. Our Board of Supervisors in 2019 adopted an ambitious goal of 5,000 net new affordable units by the year 2034. Because of the progress that we've been making with respect to developing housing, the board doubled that goal to 10,000, and we continue to work to deliver all of that housing here by the end of 2034. We had identified this as a critical need in Fairfax County for a number of reasons. One, it is essential for personal and family success. Two, housing affordability is essential to building the kinds of inclusive and diverse communities that we want to have here in Fairfax County. And finally, housing affordability is absolutely essential to the county's economic competitiveness. So the Board of Supervisors and the Housing Authority use a variety of means to deliver affordable housing, from the donation of land, leveraging private funds, and working with the private sector. The Housing Authority, just as an example, in the current fiscal year, using funds provided by the Board of Supervisors, issued a competition for $52 million for affordable housing development, and all of that funding is currently committed. There are right now, we have over 1,000 units that are under construction in areas across the county. And we have a pipeline of over 2,000 units that are heading towards getting started with their construction and are in various stages of the development process. Just to kind of give you a snapshot of the diversity of housing that we have under construction, and I'll highlight a few of these. North Hill is in South County, 279 new homes. It's a mix of senior and family housing. Ovation at Arrowbrook in the Drainsville district is now completed and we're actually cutting the ribbon on that project tomorrow. Oakwood is 150 units of senior housing. And and I could go on, but the what I'm trying to convey here is that we're building new affordable housing in every part of Fairfax County. With respect to our development pipeline, I won't go through all of these, but you can see that we have, again, a diverse range of projects underway, with many others that are sort of a further upstream in terms of getting into our development pipeline. Another critical goal and critical part of our efforts is the preservation of existing affordable housing. Our Board of Supervisors has a goal that there should be no net loss of existing affordable housing. I'm pleased to say that since they adopted that goal, we've been able to preserve about 1,000 units. So that's very significant progress. The board also amended the comprehensive plan, the land use comprehensive plan, to provide us with more tools for the preservation of affordable housing, more land use type tools. We periodically, about every 2 years, are monitoring via survey all of the market affordable housing in Fairfax County. That's the privately owned housing that does not have any subsidy on it, but it is just naturally occurring affordable housing due to its age, for example. And we did see somewhat of a decline from 2019 to 2022, although it was a fairly small decline, and we had a significant amount of progress in terms of converting some of those naturally affordable housing communities into committed affordable, meaning that they have some kind of enforceable income restrictions on them. Just to give you an idea of the diversity and type of properties that we have contributed to the preservation, landings 1 and 2 are in the southern part of Fairfax County, and we contributed $3 million. The state contributed $8 million, and that was acquired by one of our nonprofit partners. Similarly, Colvin Woods in the Hunter Mill district was recently acquired by one of our nonprofit partners. We provided them with a $15 million loan, and we're able to preserve that property that was going to be sold. Cityside, also in South County, was acquired by one of our for-profit partners using financing from the Amazon Housing Equity Fund, and those 570 units were preserved. And similarly, Murraygate Village in South County was renovated. It's owned by the Housing Authority, and we did a full-on renovation and an extension of the affordability. As I mentioned, Fairfax County, the Housing Authority, is the county's local housing finance agency, and provides critical financing to make these affordable projects work as a business proposition. And you can see that in FY22, for example, just to give you an idea of the scope of investment that the Board of Supervisors has put in to housing affordability, over $140 million in local resources in FY22, inclusive of Housing Authority money and debt issued by the Housing Authority, as well as some of our federal funds. And you can see that we've got a number of these projects that are underway. Dominion Square West is in the Hunter Mill district in Tysons. That one is being financed by the Housing Authority. The authority will own the ground it's built on, and that is being constructed as well with a $55 million loan from the Amazon Housing Equity Fund, and will also deliver a brand new Fairfax County Community Center on site. The Arden, that's the one in the middle, is almost immediately adjacent to the Huntington Metro in South County. Again, what we're trying to do is deliver new affordable housing communities that are in areas of high opportunity, high transit opportunity, high job opportunity. And you can see Dominion Square is less than a quarter mile away from a Silver Line station. The Arden is right next to Huntington. Ovation at Arrowbrook, not the most evocative picture we could have chosen for Ovation at Arrowbrook, but that one is just steps away from the Innovation Station on the Silver Line as well. Inclusionary zoning. This is where the Board of Supervisors uses its land use authority to create an expectation of private developers who are building market rate housing to also provide affordable housing within those developments. In fiscal year 22, as you can see, we had almost 270 workforce units delivered. Those are units that are affordable, generally between 80 and 120% of the area median income. And we had 88 affordable dwelling units that were produced as well. Rental housing subsidies. This is really at the core of what the Housing Authority does relative to our relationship with the federal government. The Housing Authority manages and operates the Housing Choice Voucher Program in the county, and we have about 5,000 vouchers. And just to kind of put that in perspective for you, we're making we're making payments of about $5.5 million every month in rent subsidies to probably in the neighborhood of about 1,200 landlords. So we make a very significant contribution to the local economy, and in so doing, we give an opportunity for people who otherwise would not be able to afford to live in Fairfax County the opportunity to do so. And just to kind of give you a rough idea of who's being served in that program, the average annual income in the Housing Choice Voucher Program is about $19,000 a year for per family. So, when you think about what that means for a family to be able to live here in Fairfax County, have an affordable, stable home, for their children to be able to attend Fairfax County schools, it truly is a critical anti-poverty tool that we have at our disposal. Fairfax, the Housing Authority also owns and operates about 4,000 units of affordable housing, a wide variety of affordable housing. From senior housing to licensed assisted living to multifamily housing to specialized housing, we have properties all over Fairfax County. We also run a variety of specialized rental assistance programs that are largely aimed at providing critical assistance to people with extraordinarily high barriers to successfully obtaining housing. We have a rental subsidy and services program that is largely targeted towards people who are at risk of homelessness. We successfully were awarded 169 new emergency housing vouchers by HUD, and those generally serve people who have been chronically homeless. We have a state rental assistance program. We're now serving over 150 households with that. That is the rental subsidy program that was put in place following the closing of the state training centers that used to exist for people with severe disabilities. We also have a specialized voucher program that's part of a partnership with HUD and the Veterans Administration to provide housing and supportive services for veterans. I know that was a lot of stuff. I'm happy to answer any questions. I'm going to try to stop sharing and look forward to your questions. Thank you for your patience. Let me run through that.
Tom, we did have one question in the chat that came through while you were speaking. The question was, can you define no net loss? What does that mean?
Right. So we have a universe of about 8,500 market affordable housing units, and that housing doesn't have any kind of subsidy on it. And the idea here is that we don't want to lose that housing. We want to preserve it as best we can and have it be sustainable and have it be high quality, affordable housing for a long time. So when we talk about no net loss, we're talking about not wanting to lose and come down off of that 8,500. So I'm not too swift at following the chat, but I see Mr. Youssef has asked define affordable. Thank you for your question. Affordability generally means that you're not paying more than a third of your income for your housing. So what we try to do is in all of our programs, we try to make sure that you're not paying more than a third of your income for housing, because otherwise, especially, people with lower incomes, people with fixed incomes start having to make very difficult choices. So that's a very important part of why we exist, is to make sure that people have housing that does not cost burden them. I see Mrs. Amara is asking about the waiting list for housing vouchers. The waiting list for the Housing Choice Voucher Program is currently closed. What we do, it used to be that we would open the Housing Choice Voucher Program and then it would be closed for 10 years while we worked through the thousands of people that got on the waiting list. And we came to a conclusion that was not a very fair way of operating a waiting list, because people really didn't have a reasonable expectation that they would be able to be served at some point in their lifetime, right? So what we tried to do is that we have shortened the period that we keep the waiting list closed, and we do that by opening the waiting list briefly, getting applications in, making a random selection from those applications, and then working through that random selection, and then we purge the waiting list, and then we go back out. The idea is to try to help people have more opportunities to access the program. Mr. Youssef asked about affordable for seniors. We do the no more than a third of your income still applies for seniors. We recognize, though, that seniors tend to have more constraints relative to their ability to grow their income over time. A lot of folks are on retirement income. So we are, we try to be very cognizant of that. I'm very pleased to say too, that a large number of our new affordable housing properties that I outlined today include a substantial number of dedicated senior units. So North Hill has 63 new senior units. One University will have 120 new senior units. Oakwood is all senior. Autumn Willow, which where we just closed the financing on Autumn Willow, will be another 150 units of senior housing. So, so we identified senior housing as being one of the top two needs for affordable housing production. The other being housing for smaller families, so 1 and 2 bedroom units.
Tom, if you want, I can monitor the chat for you and just read the questions so you don't have to think about that.
Sounds like a plan. I am not a good multitasker.
Okay, so the next question is, what is the composition of the 8,500 units?
So I can't, and thank you for the question. I can't tell you the exact composition by bedroom size off the top of my head, but what I can say is that most of these are in apartment complexes, generally in the southern part of the and eastern portions of the county, where the apartment complexes were built in the 50s or 60s. And have, over time become more affordable as compared to newer product. So really, I think a good way to look at that and look at the composition of those units is that they generally tend to be, 1950s, 60s, and 70s era multifamily.
Okay, thank you. That's what I was asking. This is Reverend Barbara Breland. I was asking, like, are they senior dwellings? Are they single families? Are they multi-unit dwellings? That's what I was asking by the composition. So sorry, I didn't make my question clearer.
Not at all. Thank you for that.
Then the next question, Sherry, I don't know if you want to elaborate, but she's asking about what is the progress with the faith communities to use their land to build affordable housing?
Right. We are very excited that we are moving forward with our very first partnership for new affordable housing development on church-owned land in a very long time. And the First Christian Church in Seven Corners is working with one of our nonprofit partners called Wesley Housing to develop 90 units of affordable senior housing on an unused piece of the church's property. So we are very excited about that. We know that there's a lot more opportunity to be had, and what I would say to all of you who represent faith communities with land resources is that we are open for business, and we are here to help you make the decisions that your congregations need to make in order to be able to move something forward if you were to choose to do so.
And Tom, can you tell them if they do want to move forward with that? Can you let them know who they should contact?
So if not me, they should be contacting my deputy director, Anna Shapiro. And my deputy, Tom Barnett, is on this call, and I'd ask him if he wouldn't mind putting Anna's email in the chat.
Reverend Barbara has a question. Are there affordable housing programs for residents to purchase their homes? And I've had other people besides her ask that same question as well. Right.
Affordable home ownership is a huge challenge. It's a huge challenge from an economic standpoint, so that our more moderate income working families are able to buy a piece of Fairfax County, and that's become more and more out of reach. It's critical from an equity standpoint, and it is generally more very healthy for the economy. We are in the process of preparing for a substantial expansion of our work in affordable home ownership. We do have a first-time home buyers program that largely focuses on the sale and resale of affordable dwelling units. But we are looking to significantly expand our work in the as a lender to provide down payment and closing cost assistance to help people increase their purchasing power, even though this market remains and will be very challenging.
Okay, Mr. McMillan asked, does the housing voucher you are talking about include the senior assisted living like I'm in? And Mr. McMillan, you may have to elaborate. You're referring to Chesterbrook?
Yes, I am.
And it's good to see you, Ken.
Good to see you too, Tom. How have you been?
All right. I would say that yes, I mean the project-based vouchers, and this can go into the weeds very quickly and very deeply, but the project-based vouchers do have their own waiting lists, and so yes, that would be included. Yes.
Okay.
I have another question, but I prefer to contact you personally, Tom. I'll do that sometime this week or next week.
You know where to find me.
Yeah, buddy.
Thank you, sir. Okay, we have another question. What percent of the affordable housing goals will decrease homelessness, and by what percent?
So I think it's very important to recognize that the only thing that truly ends homelessness is affordable housing. So in a sense, you know, everything that we're doing is aimed at decreasing the chances that anyone in our community is homeless. That being said, the Fairfax County Redevelopment and Housing Authority, which has a very special designation from the Department of Housing and Urban Development that gives us a lot more programmatic flexibility, is using its voucher authority to put vouchers into project-based vouchers into these new construction projects with the specific goal of serving families with extremely low incomes. So those families who are most vulnerable, most at risk for homelessness, those families that have experienced homelessness will be able to benefit from that practice. I will also say that we've identified roughly a need for roughly 300 new units of permanent supportive housing for chronically homeless single people. And I can say that with 2 projects that we have in our pipeline, we are close to having a third of the units that we need underway. And we are working full out to identify other opportunities to provide permanent supportive housing in our new developments and in opportunities such as are being presented by the Lamb Center, for example, in Fairfax City. And you'll forgive my Welsh Terrier up there barking. We actually call her a Welsh terrorist. Anyway, we're very committed to ensuring that we're delivering a broad range of housing, including most particularly for families that that have been homeless, are at the greatest risk for homelessness and have extremely low incomes.
Okay, our next question, what are you doing for county workforce, police, fire, teachers, etc., housing who don't make enough money to actually live in the county?
Now that comes from a Kathy Ichter, and that name is somewhat familiar to me. Hi, Kathy. Good to hear from you. I would say that there are a number of things that we're doing. We are very we have a magnet housing program that within the housing that we own and operate, that is aimed at serving certain employees from certain sectors, and we operated under a memorandum of understanding with police, fire, sheriff, FCPS, and Innova Health Services. We would like to be able to expand it. We'd also like to be able to explore the possibility at some point of a housing stipend, and significant opportunities for county employees for down payment and closing cost assistance. So we're not where we want to be, but we certainly recognize the criticality of that.
Okay, is Ovation at Arrowbrook all affordable? Any for seniors?
Ovation at Arrowbrook is all affordable. However, there are not units that are specifically for seniors. So in that particular property, we do not have specifically dedicated senior units.
Those were all of the questions in the chat. I have a quick question. Tom, can you mentioned housing for veterans in your presentation. Can you talk a little bit more about that, please?
So, and I might ask my my partner in crime, Mr. Barnett, to help me with this if I goof it up. But as I mentioned, we have a specialized voucher program that specifically serves veterans, and it is coupled with supportive services and case management from Department of Veterans Affairs. We are lucky here in Fairfax County that we actually do have a VA facility at Fort Belvoir, and that was one of the deciding factors where we were able to get the vouchers. But we've been very successful with it. We have applied for and received additional vouchers, and we're very proud of the work that we're doing with it. We also have a relationship with an organization called Operation Renewed Hope, and we have provided financing for them to acquire properties for use as both family and as group homes for veteran families. Tom, did I just jumping back to the Veterans Affairs Special Housing Program? Did I pretty much get that right, or can you think of anything I left out?
You're right on point. The only other thing I would add is that the Department of Housing staff hosts monthly meetings with veteran service providers across Fairfax County, including folks from DC, all focusing on a by name list of every veteran experiencing homelessness in Fairfax County and trying to match them to housing and the support that they needed. So they then connect them to the BASH program and others like that in the community.
Thanks, Tom.
Can you have your hand up?
Yes. I wanted to know, what is the average AMI for those who are seeking housing vouchers for assisted living or things of that nature, Tom?
I don't know that off the top of my head, Ken. I can try to get that for you. But I'd need some time to put it together, but I don't know that off the top of my head.
That's okay.
Anybody have any other questions or comments? Tom did give us a lot of information. Maria, is your hand up? Unmute yourself.
There we
At
go.
the bottom, yep, there you go.
I just wanted to say, talking about veterans, ACA this year worked with Rebuilding Together on with Project Hope, which is the program that was set up by a lieutenant colonel, a retired lieutenant colonel from the Army. And this year they're doing 2 houses in this area, and ACA worked on one of them, and it was a wonderful experience. So I would encourage any of the churches that haven't heard about this program. ACA now knows something about it, and that they're looking for partners. So if there are churches who want to work with Rebuilding Together, it's a wonderful experience for volunteers to know that you're working on getting a house ready for a homeless veteran family. And with that, they get not only housing, but they also have supportive services, which is something that those of us who've been working in housing and homelessness for a long time have wanted. You know, it's not enough just to give you a house and say, go and thrive.
Maria, if people want more information, can you give it to me later and I can send it out when I send out the link to the recording?
Yeah, I have a wonderful brochure and I can get that information to you right now
Okay, cool, great. Thank you.
after this, okay?
Yep, thank you.
Yeah.
Sherry, I see you have your hand up.
I do. I'm wondering, I'm back on the subject of faith communities using their land, and Tom said this is the first in a long time. Why is this progress so slow? As I drive around Fairfax County, I see lots of land that faith communities have. And I'm just wondering why the progress is so slow and what can we do to help? Fairfax Presbyterian in Fairfax City is doing an awesome project. Church of the Good Shepherd Episcopal on Braddock Road is trying to sell some of their land because they need the money, but why not use for affordable housing? I just understand the lack of progress. Why is this so hard? Thanks.
Yeah, one of the big challenges that we have seen and that our partners who are working in other jurisdictions are seeing is that the decision-making process for the congregation oftentimes is very complicated. And I think that it is also, it's very tough because there's so much goodwill to try to do something positive, but the process that it takes to actually build something is not easy, and it takes time, and it's expensive, and it requires real expertise. And so the kind of getting there part with a congregation can be a long process, and it depends a lot on the leadership structure of the particular faith community. If something is very decentralized, that's one thing. If it's very significantly hierarchical, that can be something else. So there are a lot of factors that go into it. But I feel like we're, Chesterbrook, the development Mr. McMillan was talking about, was done on land owned by the National Capital Presbytery about 15 years ago now, I think. And but they happen to have the good luck of having a well-known, highly experienced affordable housing developer in their congregation who was leading the project for them, basically. Not every congregation has one of those sitting around in the pews, right? So it does require a significant amount of expertise too. So I don't at all want to sound at all discouraging. But it is important for our faith partners to understand kind of realistically what it takes to get something done.
And then, Tom, just a quick follow-up question. So the name that Tom Barnett put in the chat, that would be the name of the person to contact from the congregation that wants to learn more about the process of how to do that?
That's correct. Anna Shapiro is our deputy director over development. So, she would be the one who would be able to begin that conversation with you if you're interested.
Thank you. Ken, you have a question?
Yes. Hey, Tom and Barnett, can you all give us a synopsis in writing, like such an email, on what do you need help with that we can help facilitate your getting your prospect designs done and put some fire behind it to make it more of a can-do thing as opposed to a cannot-do thing. So we, as those who are members of the faith community, those who are members of CAB like I am, and other advocates who for housing and ending homelessness, can get boots on the ground to facilitate your having an easier process to go on.
Well, Ken, I'd like to give you a short, easy answer, even in writing, but I think what's coming up very soon is the rechartering of our Continuum of Care Board, which will include people who have experienced homelessness as well as appointees of the Board of Supervisors. And they're being tasked by the Board of Supervisors to engage in an inclusive community engagement process. We're talking to people experiencing homelessness, talking to people that are providers and others, and then coming up with these recommendations to deliver back to the board to help influence future budget years. So I think we'll have a better product through that process. But today, I wouldn't feel comfortable putting anything down because really we have a lot more work to do to find some strategies that will work locally based on what other communities are doing and what people are saying here they need.
I would follow on that if I could, with respect to the broader mission of housing affordability, the other thing that you can do is show up to testify at public hearings, to give the board the support that they need as they're making these decisions about projects that we have.
I appreciate that. Unfortunately, because of my health, I was not able to get before the Board of Supervisors this year, but I've done so in the past and will continue to do so. But I'd like to to get other people who are particularly on this Zoom meeting right now to know that our advocacy for getting things done is just like Tom said, we have to be a lot more vocal in pursuing that. And I'm glad that someone in the chat had mentioned teachers, firefighters, and police officers, because a large amount of those do not live in the county because they simply can't afford to live here. But that included Fairfax County of 1.2 million people. Is very expensive to live in and to get housing. We just don't have the land. But your pressure and your speaking up, as I've done in the past and will continue to do so when my health is a little bit better, we will facilitate and be an advocates for your endeavor. Thank you, Tom and Barnett. I'm sorry.
Thanks, Ken.
Kathy, you have your hand up?
Yes, as I understood, Tom, from before, if a church has a piece of property and is potentially interested in doing something with housing on it, as I understand it, the first step would be to talk to Anna Shapiro. Is that correct?
That would be, yes, that would be my
Okay.
advice. Yes.
But then, just to kind of begin to get a feel for it, though, if a church were to say, we've got land, there's a certain sort of thing we'd like to have on it, but we don't have any resources in terms of, this is what you referred to in terms of the other church. We don't have necessarily resources of people who know the business to do anything with it. It's more just we've got land in a nice location, and perhaps we have certain, I won't say strings, but maybe ideas of what we'd like accomplished on it. But again, the only resource available really is the land. Does the county, does housing have people that could pick something like that up and I won't say run with it, but at least walk with it, and put something in place? Or is it simply, if a church wants to come forward, they also need to have some bucks to go with it or some other resources?
Yeah, it's a great question, Kathy. What we would do is we would begin, sort of the education process. And part of, very importantly, and to kind of answer your question, basically what happens after that, what you would need to do is, what the congregation would need to do is to identify an affordable housing development partner. And we have a large number of highly capable, award-winning affordable housing development organizations working in Fairfax County. And essentially, you provide the land and they then begin to take the risks relative to spending money to get the project, through zoning and all of the things that you need to do to be able to build something. But once you understand sort of from a global standpoint the process, you'll need an affordable housing development partner. With respect to other support that Fairfax County can provide, what we would then step in and do, assuming that you have a viable project and that that we have funding available, is that we can assist with financing the project. And so there are a number of means that we can do that. So really, if your congregation has land, has a concept, and has the ability to make a decision and select a partner, then really the partner then does much of the work in terms of the technical work, the sort of boots on the ground kind of work, and the congregation then can move into advocacy mode.
Okay, thank you very much. That's very helpful.
Certainly.
Yes, agree. That was very helpful. Does anyone else have any questions for either of the Toms?
The Toms.
We are often referred to collectively as the Toms.
There's a message. Is there a separate application for project-based vouchers for seniors? I am 81 years old. I'm an 81-year-old senior on a waiting list.
Mr. Youssef, what I'd like to do is if you can send me your phone number in the text, we will reach out to you directly.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? For either, yes, Ken?
I just want to thank Tom and Tom, now that I get a little used to that, but Tom and Tom for the presentation, and yourself, Suzette, for facilitating this. This has been great, and I hope everybody else has learned something from this. And I know Tom, Burnett, and Tom Fleetwood for a long time. They're very agile people who have a willingness to help the county move forward and trying to get people into homes that they can appreciate. So I've been doing work with them for quite a while and continue to do so as long as I can. So thank you all for having this presentation.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Can I just hop in? I'm sorry for a second. Will the
Sure.
slides be posted someplace?
So, yes, they will be because I'm gonna say that in the closing. Does anyone, before we get to that part, have any more questions for Tom or Tom? Okay, so yes, Marie.
Just one question. When Tom was talking about the waiting lists and he said we speeded up the process, what realistically is the amount of time that it would take to get on the housing list? In essence, what used to be Section A, I guess.
So, what makes the process work a little bit better is that it is a random drawing. So it's kind of hard to say exactly how quickly someone could get selected. They could apply and be selected in a process the first time, could be multiple times. So it's really, it's much harder it's hard to predict
Can't predict.
exactly how quickly.
Thank you. Okay, so if no one else has any more questions, we're going to, so to answer your question, Kathy, the link, I'm going to provide the link in the chat for the community interfaith coordination page, and that's where the slides will be posted. Once the slides get posted, though, I will send an email out to everyone letting them know that the slides are available and any other resources that I get. I know I'm waiting on something from Marie, and if I get any other resource, I will send that in an email to you all as well. So that's one thing. The survey, we will launch the survey as a poll, but the link to the survey will also be in the chat, so you can take the survey like right here, so you don't have anything to do after you leave this meeting. Yay. So yes, so we have some introductions before I go into the last bit of what I need to say. So Jennifer, do you want to introduce yourself and then introduce Michelle?
Sure. Thank you, Suzette. I'm Jennifer Josiah. I did serve as the Nonprofits and Places of Worship Coordinator in Land Development Services for the last 4 years, and I think maybe have worked with some of you or your colleagues. And I have moved on to actually lead the project management program in Land Development Services now, but we have hired Michelle Guthrie to fill that role. And so I just wanted to introduce Michelle to you. So Michelle, do you want to just give a little introduction to yourself?
Sure. Hello, everyone. I'm Michelle Guthrie. I'm the Nonprofit and Religious Use Coordinator in Project Management under Jennifer. I assist nonprofits and religious uses with their projects from the concept to occupancy. I can also help with any special permits that are needed, any farmers markets, fairs, anything like that. But I'm here to help. You can just give me a call or send me an email. I'll be happy to help you.
Thank you. And I can personally say that Jennifer and Michelle are very helpful and very nice. They can answer any questions that you may have. So yes, feel free to reach out to them. So before we go, again, the poll is launched, so please fill it out. I just put the link in the chat to the web page. The other thing I want to say is, as you know, our meetings have been every other month, but we have a special pop-up in June. I'm calling it the June pop-up, where we will have a presentation from Renee Huffman Jackson with Fairfax County Public Schools. She is the Chief Experience, she's in the Chief Experience and Engagement Office. And I know many of you in the faith community have been having meetings with Dr. Reed, and you've been on the strategic plan, but this meeting will be a little different. And it's part of, as you all asked for more partnership with FCPS. And so this meeting will be a way to talk about how you all can partner with FCPS. So that's one thing. And then the other person that's going to be there is Lori Tasharsky, sorry. She works with SCAN, which is Stop Child Abuse Now, and her focus is institutional child abuse. So she works with organizations to help them protect children in the institution. So that's going to be really cool. It's a pop-up, so I hope you all can be there. And then the last thing I want to say before I let you all go is that hopefully you got the email saying that our listserv is changing and that you will now get the newsletter in a different format. I think you will like the format better. Caroline and I will be practicing diligently so we can make it really nice for you to get it out so you all can, come to the events and see what's happening. So those are my announcements. Does anyone else have anything they need to say before we say goodbye? And before we do that, I want to thank Tom for being here with us this evening and sharing this information with us.
Thank you very much for having us. It's so good to see you. Really appreciate it.
Yes. Tom, will you be sharing the slides or no?
I can certainly share them with you.
Okay, great. So then I'll send that out also once I send out the email with the other resources. So thank you all. Thank you. And Mr. Youssef, I got your email. I will